All right, we're back from a disc change break. I think we're done with 11.5 liaison to town committees. Item 12, public questions. Come on up.
Hello, Mariana Toyne, 43 Park Street. We are here with a number of parents from the Guildford Lakes preschool program. We have some concerns, and we have a letter that we would like to read into the record.
Amanda Splendorio, 588 Westlake. I wrote this down because I thought it would be quick and we can all get out of here a little faster. We wanted to make you aware of some changes to the Guildford preschool program at Lakes. It's been cut and parents weren't notified or made aware of any of these changes. We were told that the program was the same as last year, and it's not. 2 of the classes were combined, and now there are 15 children. They're ages 3 to 4 in one class. So it used to be 9 students with 1 teacher and 2 dedicated paras. We have some concerns that we'd like to bring up. This has obviously caused some issues for the kids and I'm sure the teachers as well. This year, there are 15 students. We were also told that the number might rise to 20, and that has to do with the IEPs and special needs children coming in their spaces. And the state of Connecticut, it's 1 to 10, I'm sure you all know this, ratio that they can have. And so right now, we had a 1 to 4 last year, and right now we have a 1 to, 1 to 8, thank you. I don't have that in here. But the state standard will allow it to go up to a 10 to 1. So I'm not sure if you've ever been in a room with 15 3- and 4-year-olds and 2 adults, but it's a little bit chaotic. And even our children have complained, like, it's noisy, it's hard to learn, they haven't been able to get to us, we've got a project, but I'm gonna have to do mine tomorrow, Mom. So we've heard a lot of this, and it's just not an optimal learning environment for our children. The second is the class curriculum. So due to this change, the curriculum structure has obviously changed too. They're not able to get to a lot of the projects that they were able to do. And a lot of our kids, or the majority of the kids, are age 4, and they're going to be going into kindergarten next year. And this is a concern because Guildford is still half day, and we're very, very concerned as parents that they're not going to be fully prepared for kindergarten. And then when they get into kindergarten, it's also going to be very difficult for them with a half-day program, meeting the core standard and actually being able to function in first grade. So that's a concern for us as parents. So we really want to make sure that the structure of this program is suitable for them. Let's see. This also was a peer program, and so we've talked to Virginia Brown about it, and this was a peer program, and we've talked to the parents in the program. So there's Christine's class and Maureen's class, and they do have a lot of special needs children in there. But Miss Debbie's class, which has now been changed to Miss Jen's, was cut in half, and the children in there are really not. We do know from talking to the parents there's a child with cerebral palsy and there's a few children with speech delays, but nothing like it was before. And part of the draw of this program for peer parents like myself was, it's a really great opportunity for my child to engage with other kids with learning disabilities and see, children. And I think it really cuts down on bullying if children are raised with kids who are different from them, right from the preschool time. So that was very important to us, and it's really changed. They are telling us that it isn't, but by talking to parents, we kind of know it has. At the end of the day, we're Guildford, and our education system is top rated for a reason, and succumbing to state minimums is not how we got here. Our goal is to work together to remedy these issues and to make the program as great as it was last year. So we need to go back to having 2 classes, an AM and a PM, and we've offered some solutions. So we're not just kind of throwing this at you, we want to work with you. We'd like to open a dialogue and see what can be done. Some of the solutions that we've talked about. What would a tuition increase look like for those of us to pay to have our children in this program? So we already pay, what would the increase be if we had to increase it to put it back? The other one is, has anyone ever tried to increase enrollment in this program? We are parents that have all talked to each other and talked to other parents to hear about this program. But there's no advertising for this program, and I would think that even in the local library, putting some flyer up with all the other daycares and centers and stuff might be a good way to go. It's inexpensive, an ad in a local paper may go a long way. We're not really doing anything to get, aside from word of mouth that I'm aware of, to get the word out there. And then, is there a possibility of using parents that are helping hands volunteers in the classroom? So could some of us go in and maybe help? Because like I said, it's a lot of kids. I mean, just imagine all of those little kids in there. And at the end, we just respectfully ask the board to look into this, and please let us know options are viable and what we could do and how we can change this. It's really important to our children. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie Andrus, 21 Suzanne Circle. My daughter's in the program this year. She was in the program last year. My son, who's in Adams School, was in the program 9 years ago, and it's always been a phenomenal program. I know lots of people who've been in it, and it's just a great program. I have nothing but great things to say about it. My daughter was there last year. She had a phenomenal year. She learned so much, and she was in a class of 9 children, 1 teacher and 2 paras, and returning this year to 15 children and 1 teacher and 1 para. So the class size almost double, not quite, but we also lost a para, so we went in 2 different directions. And the biggest problem with that as well is nothing was communicated to us as parents. If we were told that these changes were going to be made maybe in the summer or earlier, we could have weighed our decision. We could have possibly enrolled them in another preschool program because we are paying for the program. We were never given the opportunity to make a decision. And now we're 2 months into the school year, and the kids are adapted. They love their teacher. I have nothing but great things to say about the staff there. Made great friends. It's just the class size. It's just a morning program now instead of the afternoon. If you split it in half, it would be like it was last year, and I'm not quite sure why we've done that, because the tuition has remained the same. So if it was a cost thing, we could have raised the tuition. I know people who, because it's a lottery system, put their name in. I know kids who were turned away because there wasn't enough room. So I guess that's the gist of it. So I would hope that you look into this and see, what we can do going forward to make it just a better learning environment for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just ask somebody
Sure.
a question. I'm a few years removed from preschool, and fortunately, and hope never to be back there. How does the fee that we charge for the regular ed kids at Lakes for the preschool program compare to a private preschool?
I'm not quite sure, because in a private preschool, ages 3 or 4, there are different days or amounts of times. I do believe it's cheaper than a private. It is
Okay.
cheaper than a private, but it depends on what school and for the time frame, how long, how many days, extended days. So it's different. It's different in every school. It is cheaper.
It's cheaper by a lot? I mean, I understand, I don't want to pin you down. I
I'm
can't
not-
pin you down by...
On a monthly rate, it was
Not
a
a
little
hun-
less than $100 more to go to one of the private ones that are in Guilford.
Okay.
They have a 4-to-1 ratio.
All right, so the answer, it's a little below, but it's close.
It is close.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's a wonderful program up until.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it in the past at budget time about the amount that we thought was appropriate to charge. For a long time, it was practically free, frankly.
It
And
was, I remember.
which is
Well, it was
great
for our
for
kids,
parents
yeah.
who got their kids into the program, but it really wasn't fair
Right.
to charge that little. But we want to try to be, we want to be close to the market rate, recognizing that.
If the program needed to go up in tuition to keep it the way it was, I'm all for that. I didn't pick the program for the cost. I picked the program for
Okay.
the program, and the experience that I've had, and just about all my neighbors, I have neighbors whose kids who've graduated from college who went. It was phenomenal for my son. It's been great for my daughter. I picked it for the kind of program that it was.
Is there anything you want to observe on this? Have you met with any of these?
No, I know that Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Brown have been working to schedule a meeting. I know that it was not possible to have that meeting happen before tonight's
Right.
board meeting. But Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Brown are working to schedule a meeting to talk to parents who have concerns. I'm not prepared to be able to respond to any of the concerns
Yep,
you've raised
that's
tonight. But I welcome the invitation to have the conversation. We'll start with Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Hale, and we will look into, I appreciate the fact that you've said we're here with options as well as observations and not just, yes.
We weren't
Yep.
told at all, and I think it blindsided us. We just want to know why and what can be done to fix it.
Yeah, in terms of cost, I think you brought that up. I think It's not really entirely comparable because some of the other preschool programs in town are maybe more academically oriented, whereas this one is more geared towards socializing and addressing other issues that children might have. But it was, and also the special needs children go free.
course.
So there are different concerns. And it's not so much about the money, but it's the fact that when you show up and you find suddenly the class size has nearly doubled and it wasn't communicated at the open houses and when they were recruiting people, you feel that things are going on that you're not aware of, and now you're presented with a fait accompli. You've made your choice. The other preschool spaces might be taken in other places, so there is not much of an option for you to change your child around. And we are all concerned because we have children. My daughter went there for 2 years. She loved it. She had a fantastic time. She had wonderful attention. She made friends. She understood children learn at different levels. They have different abilities, and it was a fantastic program. And that's why my son, I felt, had to go there. And the first year it was wonderful. It was just like it's always been. And now we find that there's been all these changes made, and I think the ratio between carers and children and just the sheer size of children is not something that we had anticipated and were not really happy about. So if we could find a solution to this, wherever it is, before the year is out, I think we need to move on
Well,
that as much as we
I
can.
think if you're starting with a meeting with Mrs. Hale and
Yeah.
and Mrs. Brown, that is absolutely the right place to start. It would be really unusual that we would, we have a budgetary role, obviously, but
Yes.
in terms of,
I did actually email Mrs. Brown.
Yes.
And her email response was, we're monitoring it, but we've made cuts to the budget.
can you just
Oh, right.
step
I'm
up a little
sorry.
bit?
So basically what she had said is we were monitoring it, but we've made cuts to the budget, and the enrollment was down, and that's what we were told. But I saw a mother on Saturday at Bittner Park, and she lives just a few houses down from Guilford Lakes, and she goes, no one's ever called me back. I called about the preschool program several times, and no one called me back. And she has 2 very young children that would also have gone to the program. So I'm not sure where they're saying enrollment's down, like what.
Well, I think, that, as I recall, last time we talked
Special
about this, the
education
enrollment is
enrollment
driven
is
by the
different.
special ed enrollment, and that is that as I recall it, the
ratio.
target is that we wanted to try to have a 1-to-1 regular ed to special ed. If the special ed
Yes.
enrollment is going down,
The-
the regular ed enrollment is going to go down by
Preschool, right.
definition.
The preschool program is a mandated, required program for students with identified special needs. And because the state also requires that you have the least restrictive environment, it is normal in school districts that you identify the special education population that requires the service, and then you try to have a balance of 1 typical peer per every enrolled. So yes, the controlling factor would be our identified special education population, and that then identifies the number of slots that you might have available for non-typical peers.
That can change throughout the year,
Yes,
because the classes do change throughout the year as children qualify at
yes,
different times.
exactly. Child Find does change that through the course of the year as students age in.
Right.
Yep.
But did we drop a full teacher from that program, or?
I'm just really not ready to,
Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah,
sorry.
I'd have to,
We need to,
Yeah.
you're starting off in the absolutely right place with Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Brown.
I'd hate to start off the cuff trying to respond, yeah.
Yeah, see what the explanation is. I'd urge you to keep in mind that Mrs. Brown, well, they're both relatively new to the district, but Mrs. Brown is really new to the district. And so my guess is at the time that the open houses were going on and so forth, in last winter or spring, she was either
was not.
not here or here really close to when the open houses were. So there may have been, I can't speak for her, there may have been something that happened between when she came on and I just don't know. But just, I think, start with them, and then Dr. Freeman would be the next resource to.
We just wanted you to be aware of the situation. We weren't sure if that was something that you'd come across before, because it was certainly a big surprise to us. And all we had asked initially would have been to be told, at least prior to the start of the school year, that there had been changes, and not to find that we show up and it's a completely different
I
program.
understand, and I'm
Yeah.
encouraging you to raise that with Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Brown,
Right.
and then with Dr. Freeman.
We have, there's a meeting scheduled for the end of the month, and we
Okay.
are going to meet with her, but they've really given us their answer, that enrollment was down, and that was pretty much it. There really isn't anywhere to go from there. So
Seems-
that's why we're here tonight, and that's why we're hoping to open a dialogue to just see, where we go from here before we're too far into the school, year, and our children are not getting what they need.
I think opening the dialogue is absolutely the right language, and we're happy to engage in that dialogue with you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming. Thank you for coming and keeping us
Sorry.
aware.
Sorry to
Stephanie
keep
Maurer,
you,
23
oh,
Woodruff.
go ahead.
You had mentioned that it's based on a 1-to-1 ratio, right, for the special needs versus the peers, and that's how it's,
That is typically what most school districts do. Again, I would have to go back and look at our history. I haven't.
I can tell you last year, it was about half.
Yeah, I think that's what we had intended back when it was set up.
And there are changes that will occur due to ins and outs of ones we have
Right,
to service.
which brings me to my question. Right now, our class is about 1/3 special needs. So if your goal is really 1/2, does that mean that we can expect to have that many more kids enter throughout the school year?
I'd have to go back and look at our history. I think probably not. I think there was I'd have to go back and look. I don't
That's
want
another
to, I don't
question
want
to
to
ask
start
Mrs.
trying to
Brown.
guess at the answers to your questions. I'd rather have the actual answers to your questions.
It is not unusual that people do come in the middle of the year. On the other hand, that is absolutely a question to ask Mrs. Brown. She's going to be much more familiar with that data than Dr. Freeman or us.
And
At this
based upon IEPs and the associated things, and that will dictate what staffing levels go for those particular people. So there's a lot to it, and we're probably saying too much to get hopes
We're
up
guessing
or
at
otherwise.
answers,
So I think it's
I
better
will note, though,
curtail.
that according to the enrollment history, our pre-K enrollment has gone down by 1/3 from 2011 to 2013. So that is going to have an impact.
If there are kids in the district, they're just unaware of this program.
Not special ed
Not-
kid.
Not special ed.
No.
That's what
You're
drives
saying
it.
just a
The
special
special ed
ed.
is
Correct, it is a special ed.
Right.
It's created by special ed law, let's put it that way.
But it wouldn't
And
exist
if
if
there
you
is an
didn't have
IEP
it.
that says that a child needs these services, then he or she is going to get them. That's the law. Okay, well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? No other members of the public, Mr. Bishop, so you,
Would you like a motion to adjourn to executive session?
yeah, we do have two items on the executive session agenda, teachers' negotiations and administrators' negotiations. We're going to go into executive session, speak about them briefly. We will adjourn or return to public session only for the purpose of adjourning, and there will be no more public votes this evening. So is there a motion that we go into executive session for those purposes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.